Okay, we're live for the latest edition of the Data Value Show. Today, we've taken on a mission to make data governance cool. And the best people I know in the planet that can make that happen is Juan and Tim. So let's bring them on. Hey guys, how we doing?
Chris, how are you?
Happy Monday.
Good. I've got my honest, no BS t-shirt on.
And I have my honest.
My hair was messy.
Mine says honest knobs. Sorry.
Right? Oh
yeah,
yes, you do. But yeah. So for anyone that ever watched, we did a roast of data with me and JT, and I think we highlighted that depending on how you read the hashtag, it could be taken the wrong way. Of rather being honest, no BS, it could be is honest knobs. But I know we're in the place of just honest, no BS, and I'm glad I've got a hyphen between mine now.
Either way, it's an honest statement.
Yeah, I'm sporting my Winter Data Conference hat because my hair's messy today, so I didn't get a chance to get it done. But yeah, I thought I'd get the merch out. I will take it off now because I'm getting hot. So, for people that don't know you, Juan and Tim, do you want to give yourself a bit of an intro, and yeah, we can take it from there.
Yeah, sure. Juan, why don't you kick this off?
Yeah, so Juan Sequeda, I'm the principal scientist and the head of the AI lab at data.world. And also with Tim, we do the podcast, Cataloging Cocktails, the honest, no BS on Sales Data podcast. And yeah, anything semantics, metadata, knowledge graphs, that's my world. That's my life. Been doing this stuff for 2 decades now. So here we are. And to my partner in crime, Tim.
And I'm Tim Gasper, the other half of Cataloging Cocktails. I'm the Chief Product Officer at data.world, and I've run data teams. I was actually our Chief Customer Officer for a little bit, so I got to work with some of our customers, but mainly product management, so data products and software products. So excited for this chat because governance is pretty important, and it didn't used to be cool, but maybe we can make it cool.
Yeah, well. Yeah, everything has its time, and I think So I think I called it the cool wall. Data scientists are cool. Well, there's much now. But before we go into it, I mean, you guys run an excellent podcast, Cocktails and Catalogs. If anyone gets a chance, I have been on there before, and we were drinking at the time, so it does make it a little bit more fun. Well, I suppose hence the name Cocktails and Catalogs. Unfortunately, due to time zone restrictions, we're not drinking today. Yet anyway, but you never know.
Here and I don't know this kind of thing.
You got the more merch coming out. I've had the pleasure of hearing Juan at Day-to-Day Text on many occasions, and Tim, we've seen it on the circuit many times. And always enjoy our conversations. It's an interesting topic, and I always like new lens of things that have been around for a while, and we were just talking before about data modeling. If it was the lost art, and now everyone knows about data. They don't know how to spell it between the Americans and the US still. Sorry, Americans and the UK. We have 2 L's, you have 1, but that's just semantics. So I know you were at Orlando recently, and I think that's where you got a bit of a sense of there's more of a focus back on governance. Is that right?
So there's been several events, right? So we were in Orlando. Tim and I are always on the road, right? I think so. We've been traveling all of this year, all the events that we've been. So it was at Data Day, Texas. We were visiting. We did 10 days and 10 customers in Europe, in February. Mm-hmm. We were visiting some other customers in end of February or beginning of March, New York. We had the Gartner. And then it's just been these little things just been happening. And I'm like, wait, this has been boiling up. And I have to say, for me, kind of the aha tipping point moment was at the low-key data happy hour in New York. And I was there, and I didn't even get halfway into the bar, and I had 3 different conversations, 3 different people. And they're all governance related. I did not start the conversation. It was about metadata. It was about governance. And I'm like, wait, when I come to these events, I'm usually talking in more technical file formats and Iceberg and pipelines and dashboard and all this stuff, streaming and this. And then suddenly, like, where the heck, like, and it wasn't just that, it was like a bunch of stuff. And that was like, wait, something's going on here. And then after that, we saw Gartner, and then that was a big thing. So, so the point is people are realizing, let's put the label aside, governance. Let's put that label aside. AI is a catalyst for people to say, oh, I need this stuff, which is data. But I need data that I can trust. I need data I can understand. I need data I can go use. I need data. And then people are like, oh, I can give that to you. And there's work that needs to be done. Like, oh yeah, if you do that work and I can go just hit the ground running with all this AI stuff I want to go do, all that work, that's now call it governance, call it enablement, call it all these tasks that we do, modeling, like that all falls in that umbrella. So I think people are realizing that this is the enabler. The analogy is we go to the gold rush, and this is the picks and the shovels.
Yeah, and there's a comment here saying, still data people talking about governance mostly. I think that's the problem in general, actually, with our industry is we are an echo chamber. We always talk about this stuff, but I think what you're just saying there is something's going in the right direction. Because if you say before, if everyone was just worried about file formats, do they use Dremio, do you use Trino, do you use this? They're asking the wrong questions, really, with regards to accelerating their company or the business further forward. It's how can I get to production faster? How can I get what the business need quicker? How can I make sure that I'm not going to get blocks and it's not going to get into production because it's not secure enough? So if that is now the sort of like the tone of these happy hours, and I know you're very popular one. That's why they want to talk to you, because you walk through the door. They want a bit of your honest no BS. That was the thing. But yeah, it maybe shows there is a bit more mindset, that the rise of more of a data modeling. I think I did a hashtag a few years ago, bring back data modeling. And that's when I found out there's different spellings as well. That was what caught me out. I had to pick 2 hashtags. But what Joe's doing now, raising the profile of that, focusing on a book of that, the content on LinkedIn, of the modern data stacks, not the modern data stack fault if you forgot to data model, and realizing, if I model it correctly, maybe it's going to be easier to manage, maybe I get better use out of it. So
yeah,
what would you put into the bucket of governance? I mean, if we've got to make it cool, we're gonna have to break it down into which bits we're going to make cool first.
Right. Well, I think what'll help to frame thinking about how we make this cool, and just by the way, in terms of the echo chamber comment, I think, yes, there is a really big echo chamber going on, where we like to talk about things that, it amps things up, like data mesh and things like that start to get, too much attention sometimes and things like that. But I think that, Juan and I have been talking to quite a few of our customers, quite a few of folks in the space, and I think there's a reality to it. It's not just an echo chamber thing, right? Like, and so the framing of why this can be cool and why it needs to be cool is there's a confluence of trends going on right now, and they all roads are leading back to governance, or whatever we should call it, right? One is AI, right? Everybody is hoping to get the benefits of AI, leaning into AI. AI requires trusted governance, right? If we don't, then we're gonna struggle, both semantically as well as in terms of doing it safely. Second is self-service analytics, right? All companies are trying to get their hands on data, and the only way we're going to do that effectively is good governance and enablement, right? Federated data architectures, whether you call it data mesh or data fabric, or you want to make up your own term, great. That all those roads lead back to governance.
Yep.
The shift left movement, right? Data contracts, pushing more responsibility onto producers. How do we do that effectively? We need to have policies, we need to have tools, we need to have operational governance, right? And data products, fifth trend, all ties back to data governance. So I think all these roads, all these things that are going on in the data space to make data more effective, to make it more scalable, it all ties back to business value, and it all ties back to governance. So I think that's a super interesting framing around all this.
And one more thing to add to here is, and the hidden superpowers, the hidden superheroes around the space have been around for centuries, which is the library sciences, and we're now starting to go see a crossover with different communities, right? I mean, Ole with the whole metagrid and stuff, right? We have folks like Jessica Tausman that we've seen more on the road, like on LinkedIn, in our LinkedIn bubble, but also out in the road, right? We had Amalia Child, we had Jenna Jordan. Like, there's a bunch of people who are really kind of bringing this stuff into. And for me, another catalyst for me, when actually we had Amalia Child on our podcast about the 5 laws of library sciences, which is something from the father of library science, right? And it's like, this stuff just ties so nicely to data. And it's like, wait, and by the way, this isn't new. Like, this is centuries old, how people have been thinking about this stuff, right? Data is, I mean, think about it. Data is for use, right? Like, books are for use. Every user for their data. You need to understand the personalization, right? You need to understand who are the consumers. You need to save people's time, right? This is going to evolve. Like, so I think library science is another trend that we're seeing, and which is fantastic, because it's like, we're not starting, none of this stuff is new. It's just kind of bringing the right people into the room. And I think going back to, how do we start? How do we break this down? There's a lot to learn from library sciences, how to go do this.
So in the comment about this is nothing new, and what highlights this, I had Ben Rogen on, I think a couple of months ago, and he was saying, we're just repeating the same mistakes, we're doing the same thing. And I think, right, I know how much older I am than you. And if now you're getting to see the things that we just keep doing the same things, going around in circles, how do you think I feel? Because I've seen 2 more of these circles as well. And I think I call it like the Catherine wheel of things. We're going around in circles. We're getting maybe closer to where we need to be, but maybe we fizzled out before we even get there. And I'm just making some notes here as well. Not as good as you guys, because you guys tag team your notes. You're brilliant. But data products. So we had that as a topic at the Wednesday conference. And it was amazing that we couldn't get an agreement what one was, which was interesting. I think the outcome of the end was just agree internally within your company what you think it is and just stick to it. And I think that was the way forward. But the 4 things I kept, I may have missed one, Tim, is self-service, AI, federation, and then quality. Was there any other ones that I missed when you were there?
Kind of related to a couple of those, like shift left and data products, kind of being the other two.
Oh yeah, that was a mistake, right? So I just wrote some notes before of what I thought was in the bucket of data governance, and the security aspect of it. I think it's the quality aspect of it, and if that governance, I think this is the other problem is governance normally looks after the governance of the data downstream, and normally part of that reporting and analytics world. That needs to shift left, because we need to actually look at that governance of that point that every data is actually persisted and where it becomes alive as part of your platform. So ownership. I think that's the other thing that needs to be done. Compliance, and this is something that at the beginning when I started, there was no regulations out there. There's no GDPR. There was no regulation submission, stuff like that. Access to data, HIPAA didn't exist. And we moved quite quick then. But I think there's another moving forward now is how many people out there have experienced the fact they've done something, but then it doesn't get into production because they haven't engaged with the governance team. And then that creates animosity between them. Governance, they're not going to be seen as cool then. They're going to be seen as the blockers to you getting to do what you want. And I think that's core. That's part of the core problem, is that people's experience is normally being that they are the no police.
So cool. And I think, again, I like it. This is a good exercise, and I love to just do this as a live. We're live brainstorming here.
Yeah.
Let's call this I label it as what is the data and knowledge work that needs to happen. And everything we said here is that, let me add more. Like, you got a collaboration with your subject matter experts, right? Your data ownership, stewardship, reaching agreements, kind of consensus making, having some standardization, conceptual data modeling, defining business rules, constraints, right? Your mappings, your semantic mappings, transformations between what is one state to another, data quality, reference data management, master data management, right? Your data cleaning, your data prepping, your quality, your even the lineage of where things are coming from and so forth, right? All of this is data and knowledge work that needs to happen. And then I think what you could do is even categorize things that are very, very social people first, like reaching agreements, collaboration. That's a very social thing. Then there's very technical things, right? I need to running my pipeline like that should just be automated. That's just code that runs. And then these other things are going to be a combination of what is the social technical, right? I can do data transformations only purely from a technical perspective. But if I'm not talking to somebody, understanding what they mean by that stuff and keeping track of the semantics and implementing that then I did the technical version, but it's going to be completely wrong. And then people are going to complain. And then my pipeline's going to go down. They're not going to go trust them, blah, 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 all that type of stuff, right? So, and I think this goes back into like, we're going in circles. And I think we're acknowledging that we need to be able to kind of revisit all this laundry list of things that we have already been doing. There isn't anything new here. And the question is, if we organize ourselves more around this, we're going to be then the enablers of all this, which leads me to the other thing, which I'm going to go off a little rant here and just kind of get annoyed. I am freaking tired of people, and I've called out some people in a couple of days on LinkedIn about this stuff. So I'm sorry if you're hearing me, but this is the honest, no BS. Stop being negative. Stop being the no person. Stop being, let's go check how bad we are. No. How about let's make sure that we're going to let an amazing, super freaking awesome things happen in a safe manner. Let's figure out how well we are doing and how can we improve that. This is a people stuff. And I think just the first very basic stuff is let's change our freaking language and stop being freaking negative and pedantic.
I think that's exactly right, Juan. Governance has to go from being the people of no to be the people of yes, and here's how.
So I just made a couple of notes here, and I think that leads quite nicely on this, is that the hub and spoke sort of approach for data governance as a department. So there should be a data governance allocation for every single project, data product team that's there, that they are part of that team, maybe on a fractional basis, but there's an allocation for them to say, look, I understand your problem, and you can have the safest data in the world that no one has access to, but you're not going to have a business. And them seeing that and then being part of that, okay, I'm part of that team. That team is to deliver. Okay, right. What is the right level of governance and controls needed? And I'm going to help them get there because I'm part of this team. And if they don't succeed, we don't succeed. We're part of that. And so I think that's one aspect. I think the other thing is data governance should not add friction to their ways of working. And I've seen very many implementations of catalogs, business catalogs, how to do this stuff. But it's right now, in addition to all the other things you've got to do at the moment and hit that deadline of getting that product out, you've now got to go to this place here. You've got to enter this stuff here. You've got to go and press submit. You've got to go and go to this other process here, do that. That's not linked to what you're doing anyway. So you're going to have to redo it over here. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. The only way of encouraging people is they need to see, at an individual worker level, you need to see, well, that makes my life easier, all right? Or I know the overhead of me doing that has so many benefits over there. I don't mind doing that, but it means I can't do this as well because I need really to focus on it because it's really important. And then you're getting a different sort of mentality of data governance are here to get that route to live, and you look at the team that didn't engage with them, that they're still stuck in pre-prod because they weren't not allowed to go in because they got a security. They got to redo all that work. It's going to cost 5 more sprints. There's a money value now of that value of actually engaging data governance earlier. Our route to live is quicker. Our bounce rate or rejection rate is high. The fact that we've already documented stuff that when we get our security audit, it's already self-serve, already done. There's no additional work to do as well. We've got it all covered. So I think that's my little rant. And the last 2 things I made note of, and we were joking about this before, is everyone knows what their doctor can do, and they're quite happy to go and speak to them. They're quite happy to go and speak to their lawyer, especially if they're in trouble, to go and work out what's the best thing to make sure that they either have the best outcome that they would need. And I think that's part of that branding thing, and historically being the no police. you know, it's a bad rep. So now governance is associated to, no, you can't do that. Whereas, you know, your data lawyer saying, yeah, you can do that. You have to pay me a little bit of money, but I can make that happen. And, you know, giving you advice that, is, specialist and something that is going to benefit you in the long run. So,
right. No,
yeah,
I think that's well said. And so you said, like, don't add friction, right? And I think that's really important. Because and I think this is one of the reasons why we struggle with the word governance a lot. And you hear folks trying to experiment with, like, well, is it really data enablement? Or I don't know. I think I'm kind of on the side it's governance and enablement, right? I think more and more, organizations should say it's governance and enablement. It's G&E, right? And because it's not just the defensive stuff, right? Security, quality, ownership, compliance to protect the business, more of the protection. It has to be we're paving roads, we're greasing skids, right?
Yeah, they're guardians of the data. That's it. That's how we do it. The guardians of the data, and that's we leave out guardians of the data world, but that's probably like a bit too specific to you
right
guys.
Well, but in more than guardians, because I think guardians still can evoke a bit of a protectionary perspective, right? Which it's really more, in the same way that a good architecture group within a business should help you to scale and to amplify the impact of data, a good governance group should help you to do the same.
Spot on, and you hit the nail on the head with regards to, like, architects have got a bad rep in the past because they were the no ivory tower architects. They got. I might have been one, but I wasn't. I was a realist. I was one of the good architects. But I worked with many of them there, and like they hadn't done any coding or used this software or implemented this stuff before. They'd probably been in that same company for like 7 or 8 years. They didn't know the definition of good, and yet all these engineers very frustrated because they've been living on living in the current world, or what's on the bleeding edge, probably had experience from other places. And they have to go to this forum, go and get this design signed off, and they go, no, I need a bit more information on this bit here, and can you document that? And you're thinking, I just want to build this stuff. It's like I already know what I need to do. So I'm hoping, and I think the world of the new world of agents writing code and all the rest of it, I think we need to bring back architecture thinking, which isn't ivory tower stuff. It is, connected to good building blocks, understanding how components need to live separate, understanding how they communicate with each other, understanding the contract and data flow, bringing operational world, your data world collectively together. That's that architectural mindset is we need problem solvers, not problem creators. And I think architecture mindset is that problem solving thing. And hopefully we can make data governance problem solving and rather than problem creating, as their perception is at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think very well said. And I think one other thing to add around this topic is, when architecture happens well, when governance happens well, you are setting sort of the framework and the process, right? And actually, more and more, I think we're seeing this with customers. And as we talk with folks, there's an interest to move to more like operational governance, where the data engineers, the analytics engineers, and other folks, the analysts, the folks working with data, get to take on more responsibility around governance, so that it's less this group that sits off to the side that's having to dictate or put a bunch of stage gates in front of everything. I mean, think about like what happened, over the last few decades here around data, around quality, software quality, right? Less and less do you have QA engineers. Now it's the responsibility for engineers to help with their own QA, right? Less and less do you have dedicated data ops or DevOps people where that's their job. It's embedded in what software engineers are having to do. I think more and more we're going to see operational and embedded governance, because if engineers and knowledge workers and folks take on a little bit more of that governance responsibility, then it's less of a stage gate and more of I'm empowered to make smart decisions.
It's that probably it's sharing the problem, isn't it? And that's we've either organizational structure or technology separation, because people are aligned to technologies, not to like capabilities within functions. We people don't know. I think I refer to the squeeze the balloon effect. Someone does this, oh great, I've optimized it here. All you've just done is push the problem somewhere else. And And not having, I'll go back, business processes, not having a clear understanding of your business process end to end. I was chatting while I was out in the Winter Data Conference, and I'm just working around how I call this at the moment. But there's the real business. So there's the business process that your company thinks happens. Right? You've got the business process that actually really does happen. The delta between those two is your the chasm of confusion or something I was going to call it. I don't know, but it's the crevice of like issues or whatever you want to call it.
Crevice of chaos.
Yeah, crevice of chaos, and unless you actually start to tackle where you are, that delta, that difference, and it's basically you need to stitch it up gradually. Okay, well I can help that bit there. I'm going to bring this bit in here, and then eventually what you think's happening is actually happening. And I know now I've actually optimized things. So now I can evidence like we have reduced this many hops, we have reduced this much additional software we have to support because it's no longer needed. So I think back to the end, it's ownership of business processes end to end, understanding the operational side, how analytics fits into it, and everyone's is a cog of that. Everyone's a cog of that process, and knowing your value of that cog and how important it is, the world will be a better place. Everything will be cool.
So this is fascinating because look, the term business process, the amount of times I have heard it in the last 3 months compared to like the 3 months of last year ago, it's been just ridiculous how much it's increasing. So that's one comment. Second, what I'm seeing more now is metadata is taking a bigger stage outside of just the data and analytics space. And it's probably because, at least from my perspective, I'm getting out more from the data analytics, and I'm talking to other people, other enterprise architects, and they'll be saying these things. I'm like, wait, that's what we're doing in this data analytics space. And then I realize they have people outside of the data analytics, enterprise architects are thinking about this broadly. They have a metadata strategy that's going to impact the entire business. And that metadata strategy effectively is what you just described. It is, I want to understand the processes of my business. And I'm like, I always say, data lineage, yeah, that's one part of the piece. Of what I really want is business lineage. I want to understand how my data flows across the entire business, to understand how it is driving a particular business decision. I want to understand how my systems are putting together, because if there's a cyber attack, right? What is that going to affect? If I need to do a software update, a very critical software update, what are the effects, right? Is this still upstream, downstream kind of changes you want to go and take a look at? I want to find people and I have a question about a particular system, a particular process, a particular term. Who are the people I need to go talk to? So this is something I'm seeing that folks who, if I have the conversation with people who are in the data analytics space, but they are connected with the rest of the enterprise, they realize, connecting metadata is just a piece of that puzzle there. They want to get broader. But then I also see people who are just only care about the data analytics space. I'm like, you're missing out on the bigger opportunity here.
Yeah,
so I think
Russell in the comments here says always map the process. And I think that's super key. Metadata is more than just about the data pipeline, right?
Yeah, and this is, John Cook, if he's listening, and when I'm in London, you'll probably know, everyone knows John, but he lives around the corner from us. We've had these therapy sessions where we go and have a pint and just go and rant about stuff, and business process has been one that we've been ranting about a while, and he's very passionate about this stuff. And historically, I've worked in many places where they do a full BPM process, okay? And it's normally where it's a large transformation, it's a merger, it's a business transformation. It's a large scale thing that they need to actually work this stuff out. It's very time consuming, and it's not very automated. And you have to deal with emotional attachment of individuals. You have to deal with them saying, to get the real information out can be quite hard. And I was throwing around of some ideas, and I think this is stuff that he's trying to do with his dogs as well, which is linked to, you're talking about, Tim, you're talking about all the attributes that every process understand, owner, attributes, what data they're reusing, what data they're actually creating, any business logic they're doing there. But the conversation I had with them with John was, if we had agents that were sitting, when I say agents, I'm talking like in Stana used to do, or Datadog used to do. So like snippets of code. There's little things on every part of your infrastructure, architecture, connectivity. You use that to actually reverse engineer of, right, okay, that's how you find out what really is happening. And you can actually like trace all that stuff through. So I think that's we need to make it easy. That friction thing I said about is like business processes aren't maintained because it's hard to do, especially in large organizations.
So I want to comment. Here's a comment from James, right? He says, not entirely sure who's to blame for the state of the data world. Underinvestment, poor tooling, lack of skills, no prizes for trying to fix things, right? So I agree that it's all of the above. But I want to zoom out for a second here. I always like to say that the complaints that people have today are the exact same complaints people had 30 years ago, right? So one could argue we haven't done anything. What's happening? No, of course we've advanced things, right? We've advanced technology. We look, the no bullshit here is that we've advanced technology, we've done things faster, we've done things scalable, right? But we've really focused from a very technical perspective.
Yep.
And things that, so in that spectrum, things are great, but what we as technologists, we're not comfortable talking to other people. Where at the end of the day, data is so people can make it. The data is a means to an end. People need to make a decision, go do things, and we're not talking to them. Like, my data landed in my data warehouse. I'm done. You pay me my money. I'm out of here. It's like, well, you didn't solve the problem until somebody actually answered the question. But you're not incentivized or paid to go all the way down there. Now, I have a couple of analogies. I've been thinking about this for a while. Let's look at completely different industries where you've actually had some sort of quote unquote governance, right? So let's talk about cars. What is a governance aspect of cars? Many of these, but one particular, look at seatbelts, right? Cars have been out. I just looked this up right now. Seatbelts kind of
Volvo invented them, and they didn't license it. Everyone could use it.
Yeah, but think about it. Seatbelts came out, I think, like wasn't looking like in the 40s or something like that. The first time. But this was almost half a century after cars actually were starting to be manufactured, right? Now, people were against it, like, this is such a nuisance, I want to go do this. But over time, we just saw the positive impact of having seatbelts, and now it's a no-brainer, right? Nobody questions it. It took half a century to get, like, for the moment to actually get it implemented and distribute that. What is another area, for example? If we look at the entire industrial revolution, factories were set up to go deal with steam, and we had to go change everything so we can have electricity. We have the assembly lines, and we had to have standards to make sure that I can do things. This took a long time implementing those standards. We're like, that's governance around that. Another one, which is my favorite because I travel a lot, is aviation. So commercial aviation at the beginning of time was extremely dangerous. And if you look at the amount of crashes and people dying, it was high. But what happens after every single crash? We studied it. We learned about that stuff, and we added new regulations, governance, stuff like that. And to the point that now we just barely have any. And whenever you see things on the news, it's just one blip of thing, right? This is the safest means of transportation. So all of these things we learn from we learn from all these mistakes. So yeah. I think my point here is we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, which we aren't. Like, I think we're always like, this needs to be perfect. The quality isn't there, so you can't use it. I'm like, no, you know what? Let's be comfortable being uncomfortable. Let people have their accidents, and we're going to learn from them. Everybody's going to learn from that stuff. And going back to this point of James is like, who's to blame? We're just too young as an industry. We haven't been doing this stuff not even for barely 50 years now. I think now is the time people are realizing, I'm seeing this shit going over and over again. Something needs to change. And I think now that's why I'm arguing. I think now is the time people are saying, oh, hey, maybe you can do like the seatbelt. Oh, like that thing crashed. Let's go do a retro and figure out what happened behind that stuff. So
do you think so? The things you mentioned are those ones. So the change of the revolution, change from using coal to electricity. That was a survival thing of like, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have a company anymore. So it was sort of like, it was a very easy decision to make and get people to focus on it. Right. And I think that's the challenge. We have
on that point, that's the AI part, right? Because AI is the new electricity.
Exactly. So it's gone mainstream now. It's gone mainstream because everyone I speak to, AI, you're going to worry about it. Everyone knows about it now. 5-6 years ago, AI. Okay, which AI are you talking about? Natural language processing, machine learning, subset of that. but you're doing data mining, they're like, oh my God, you talk to a party like that, they would walk away from you going, who's that boring person there? Now everyone knows about it. It's on the news all the time. So that, that has created, that is maybe the thing that we're needing in this industry of, right, now everyone understands it. Now everyone can see, that from a business perspective, right, how are we going to use this? And the business people always talk in their business processes. And I think I made a note here is that's the glue that we need to be looking at as the common language we speak. So when you go to your business, say, okay, so what we're looking at, and rather than say, I need this feed real time that goes here, I need this stuff done here, and I want to visualize that in one chart. So which business process are you talking about? Oh, this is our customer satisfaction process. Oh, okay. So what do you do with that chart? Oh, Julie in the department there, if that goes red, she goes and calls up Bob. And then Bob goes and like sends an email, rectifies it. Okay, so do you really need the dashboard, or what do you need is an event that can be triggered that can go and do that? Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, right. Now I know. I'm talking your language. I don't bamboozle you with, we're using Snowflake, Databricks, Fusion, AI, and we're going to use some DeepSeek in there as well. Right, like, oh, fantastic. But what we're solving, and if we keep that language, and then we can still nerd out, at some time in our own corner of a party. But when we're talking to the rest of the world of business, let's just choose that common language.
This is what I call, and I think, by the way, that process that falls onto data governance, or whatever we want to call it, right? And I like Tim's thing. I'm going to call this governance and enablement. We call it data and analytics, call it governance and enablement. So whenever I call this, we need to do the iron thread exercise, which is when somebody comes, we want to go do this. It's like, first of all, I want to understand, what is the problem? Why is this important? Who's asking for this? How are you solving this problem today? Right? What happens if you can't do it today? Or what is the pain of the way you do it today? Like, you have to be able to answer all these questions before going. And if you can't answer all these questions, or you're only getting answers for the technical stuff, I'm like, I don't understand how this is going to provide value. So I'm not like you. And if you don't know, let's go find the person who does know about this stuff, because somebody's complaining to you. There's a reason. Let's go do that. And at the end, what you want to be able to do is, this iron thread is go all the way to the top to whoever's going to get the exact business value that is going to drive revenue, that is going to reduce costs, whatever it is, and be able to connect it as minimal as possible to the data that is needed to go accomplish that. That's the iron thread. And I think the best, call it data governance professionals, and I take this from Gregor Hope in his book, The Architect Elevator, are the ones who can get on that elevator, who can go all the way down to the engine room and can go all the way up to the penthouse and you navigate that. Not everybody should need to go do this, but I think the leaders, the strongest people will be able to go do that, and they'll be able to go into the technical deals. We needed to do this for this reasons, and can go off and talk to the value. This is why I call BS on anybody who says, "Oh, it's so hard to provide value in the governance." Bullshit. You're not doing your job correctly. Sorry.
No, it's right. It's all valid. I was just making some notes of, like, when we talk to people, it should be okay. If you get any of these answers, that's how I've always done it, right? And when you ask, what's this used by later? They say, I don't know. Okay. What happens if you get the stuff late? Do you know where it comes from? Who's the support? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I normally call Bob again, and then he answers me the day after. So, and that just highlights, maybe it's a culture thing. Maybe it's maybe it's not we create the right environment that people feel they're part of something bigger. And back to, like, trying to get this information out, is people aren't. I've seen this before. People don't want to share because it's job security. You're going to automate that. I've done this for 12 years, and I know how to stamp it exactly right every time. That's my job, and that's something. Well, it's I can understand. If people haven't been cross-trained, and this is a worry for them. So, and that comes out to, that's a governance team. That's a company culture thing. Is like, by the way, we may be talking to you, but what we're doing, we're offering a training program that you can go and work on this stuff for the outcome. You're going to get the right answer. You're going to get more collaboration, and you're going to get less resistance. The friction reduction thing is going to help. And maybe James, was it James? Yeah, James. Maybe then we'll in our lifetime, we'll be the ones saying, we sorted that. We nailed it. There you go. We got it.
Well, and Chris, we were talking a little bit about business process right now, right? I think one other thing very, very closely related to business process that can help with making governance more effective, more of a positive force is, in addition to aligning the business process, align to the business initiatives. Like, what is going on in the business right now that is a focus, right? And so we have a few customers of ours that are really doing a good job of aligning governance to the business initiative. So one of them, insurance company, right? They're trying very hard to improve the customer satisfaction in terms of interacting with the business, right? And so they have a whole customer 360 customer satisfaction initiative going on within the business, right? Governance needs to move away from being the ivory tower in the corner and say, how do we, instead of us coming up with 100 policies in a vacuum and trying to blanket on the organization, how do we align with this initiative that's going on, and how do we enhance it? How do we amplify it? How do we play a role to actually make it more successful?
I really like that. And it's that, one team sort of thing. And we always talked about data strategies, and I used to see them go, okay, we're going to use this technology for this. We're going to put this here. Okay, that's your data strategy. That's a technology roadmap for something you don't even know what you need yet. And always start with the business strategy. The business strategy needs a data vision on how you support that business strategy. To your point there, Tim, is right, governance team, enablement team, what we call that, guardians of the gate data, or whatever we want to call them now, is like, what things do you see that are going to prevent us achieving that? And what can you do to prevent that happening, unblock them before they've got there? Can you help me on that? And I said, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. They'll go through it. They'll look at maybe some regulation compliance. And before we've even found these problems, they're coming to you with a solution. And I think policy, I think I've referred to this in the past, is that how policies are translated is in the eye of the company, and and the associated risk associated, because if you want to go verbatim of that, you'd lock it all up, no risk at all, but again, you're not getting any value from it. So having a governance team and say, look, we need to do what the CEO says. Our share price is linked to it, your bonus is linked to it, we're all linked to it, our reputation's linked to it. How can we make this happen? And because the other insurance company over here, they're doing it, so it can be done. All right. So whatever
there's a spectrum, right, of being really pedantic and ivory tower, and on the other side, you've got going with the flow and just helping the business with where it's trying to go. We're probably too far on one side of the spectrum. We need to move to the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think this is something like we were talking to people. This was a test. When we were talking to customers and stuff, I would ask them, so what's your definition of data product? And you would see, and I was expecting the reaction. People like, whoa, ours is this, or it's like, or like they're laughing. I don't know, almost 100% Tim, whatever. We were just on our road show. Everybody was like just laughing. It's like, I don't know, they're making people just freaking too complicated. You know what a data product is? It's whatever provides value to our end users. That's it. If they want a dashboard to be a product, all right, I'm just going to create. If you're going to tell me, if I create that product, that dashboard once, and it's going to generate a shit ton of value, perfect. I don't want to create 50 dashboards. That's not value. I'll maybe create a beautiful. You want a very wide table that has all this stuff in meaning that provides value. All right, I'll do that. You saw that one side of the spectrum versus people's like, no, sorry, that you don't want. That's a product. That is the output port. So you have to request the output port. I'm like, screw you, right? That's not how you're going. That's not the language how we're going to be an enablers around that.
Be accessible, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I do see people talking, like, when it comes to quality, you do see people, depending on the industry that they're in, where they may be a little bit more pedantic on the quality, which is like, you know what? It may make sense for your particular industry. And it goes back to like, how much should I invest more? Should I actually invest in tools for do this? Or other people's like, I could just write for now some just simple SQL queries, and that could be enough check for now. That's kind of going one with the flow, right? And so I think it's figuring out where like people should have their own assessment of where personally they land on that spectrum of like being pedantic to kind of going with the flow, and then actually what the business needs, and actually those needs will be different for different initiatives, as Tim was saying.
Yeah, and I'll just make some notes here again. Is we're gonna get back down to use cases linked to business processes. The business processes will determine the level of quality you need for that particular data.
Bingo.
So this is I also use this one when people say about real time versus batch, and everyone say, "Oh, I need it real time," but hold on, I need this data as well to make a decision. Wait, how long does that come in? Oh, that comes in daily, right? So now you've defined what I call it the longest pole in the tent. All right, the tent's not a tent until you put that longest pole in there. So what's the point in running all these other ones? I might have a canopy with all the same length. Bring it all in at the same time. So yeah, understanding how the data is going to be used to work out what quality is acceptable for that is essential, because you don't want to have that, that data's not getting in, it's bad. But hold on, I just need a number of counts of like new customers on board. I didn't need to have that email address for that, or I didn't need that email address to be validated, or I didn't need that column to be populated because I'm not using that. So it's good enough for that. Great, back down to talk to the business. It's basically the business requirements that will dictate, what level of quality is needed. But yeah, you will have, if it's a separate department, go right. That's it. However, have to reject it all. Otherwise, that's not going to get you where you need to go.
I think this is. I'm looking at Winfred's comment here, also former Catalan Cocktails guest. This is why I like history. There's a lot to learn from what people have done in the past, and also just to kind of give us some grace. I mean, we're a bunch of really smart people. We're doing things right. We just we need to evolve, and we're in this amazing inflection point in time. And I think this is a huge opportunity for our own personally as on a career. So let's take advantage of this.
It's the data industrial revolution. What an amazing time to be in data right now.
And I think this is kind of like going back to like the premise of our whole conversation here is like, this is the time, right? I think governance can be cool. We had data science, kind of the starting point, right? Data engineering. And I think at the end, if you think about it, if we go back in history, right? Like the history of the last 10, 15 years, data science was like that end goal. Oh, well, we're going to put all our data here and all these insights are going to come in, but we need to be able to go analyze that. So we are data science, right? So that was kind of like, we put our North Star and we started North Star. Then from there, we went backwards, like, okay, 80% of data scientists spend their time cleaning the data and all that stuff. And then we realized, okay, that's all this data engineer work. And we're pushed a bunch of data and we're scaling. So we kind of came back and we're like, okay, now the data engineering is the next thing to go do, because the data scientists should not be spending 80% of their time on that. You should be, but then we're going like, okay, even I can do all that technical engineering stuff. There's all this people and process aspects that are tied to the business initiative and so forth. And we're learning like, oh, that's this governance stuff that we're talking about, governance and enablement. So we just have had to go through this history. Like we had to learn this the hard way because we went into uncharted territories. And I mean, this is pioneering stuff. I mean, so whoever's been in this industry for the last 15, 20 years, like this is really, really cool to see that we've gone through something that literally went from almost zero. I mean, I don't want to say zero because we did data warehousing and all that stuff for a long time, but we literally taking it at a massive scale now. So yeah, this is great. This is
Joe's join. Hey Joe. But I mean, there is a negative aspect from making things cool, and this is the problem that people like to chase the shiny thing, and also maybe chase the dream that you're going to get all this great fun stuff to do, and you're going to be paid loads of money, and everyone goes to chase. Everyone goes to chase chase the dream, and that attracts maybe sometimes the wrong people. So yeah, we have to watch out. We can't make it too cool because everyone want to do it.
Well,
I welcome that problem for governance.
Exactly. I'm just saying.
I'm joking to some degree, yeah.
At the end of the day, like we need this cannot, by not having more people in it, you're treating it as an ivory tower. And I think that's what we should not be doing, right? And I think this is why having people from different backgrounds at the university at this moment is so important, because we all have different, especially because in data, it goes across so many different industries. So there is not just one single approach how to go do this. This is why it's so important to have different people in different backgrounds thinking about how to address this problem and realizing, hey, what you're saying, I get it, but that doesn't apply to our industry for the following reasons. And then this is the public conversation that we need to have more and more about.
Yeah, we've just had the we've been raided by the police. We've got to bring Joe to the stage now. Joe, what's going on?
Hey, Joe.
You're almost in two places at the same time.
Oh, you're muted.
We can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry. How are you guys doing?
We're all right. It's been good. We've got a plan. We're going to create a new hashtag to make data governance cool again. We're going to work on that. We're going to hit it with the leaflet campaign. We're going to hit around, going around all the places, do some sticker campaign as well, guerrilla marketing.
You like a protest or something, or
canvassing. Cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
We're trying to make data governance cool.
More like a PR campaign, I would say.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, the first thing I think I'm going to start doing is it's data governance and enablement. It's not
really catchy one.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the going back to one of my previous comments was, we just need to stop being so negative around when it comes to this stuff. Like, don't tell me, oh, you can't do this, right? Again, go back to the brakes in a car, the analogy, right? We slow you down or enable you to drive fast safely. It's like, let's think about oh, we're doing this so you can do more amazing things and do them faster and safer. That's just the attitude. Like, we have to see this as the glass half full, not half empty. That's I think the first basic thing. Mm-hmm. And then stop saying, "Oh, how do I provide value for this stuff?" or "How do I showcase the value?" Like, that's the other thing we have to stop doing.
And we need to reframe things a little bit. Like, Chris, towards the beginning today, you mentioned security, quality, ownership, compliance, standards, right? If that can't be the why, right? Like, I think when you say why do you do governance? Well, our goal is security, quality, ownership, compliance. Like, too many governance organizations, I think that way, actually, right? Whether you do or not, Chris, I think too many governance organizations do. That's the what, right? The why needs to be, we're accelerating data value and we're fostering data trust or something along those lines. So really think about how you talk about governance in your organization and position it differently.
Yeah, and I think you could be cool as the friction reduce. You're reducing the friction of the route to live, and having that embedding the governance function as part of your team. Always focusing on why you're doing this. It's on our company strategy. It's on our shareholder agreement that we've said last year to all the board members. We're doing this stuff. This is why we're doing it. And we only have to do what's needed to deliver that. We don't have to build the best, most secure platform in the world that no one's ever going to use. We need to build what's needed to support the business use cases and ensure that we get to live quickly but securely, and with no repercussions of that, which means we can go and do it again quicker, faster, harder.
I like that. It's to reduce the friction so we can go live.
Yeah.
Keep it simple right there. I like that.
Yeah. And we've seen it so many times. You get that final stage, and if you don't engage with the security or the governance team early, you can be put behind 5 sprints. Okay, you got to go redo all that stuff. And I've seen it before in clients where they avoided it because of the no police. Oh, that's going to slow us down. We got to do this stuff. But at the end of the game, they lost the race anyway. So if they've been slowed down, is it slow down to speed up? That's the other thing. Sometimes
how do you emphasize that though, or I guess incentivize companies to support slowing down to speed up? Because it's a question I get a ton everywhere in the world. It's like, I want to do the right thing, I want to live a good life, but I might have to slow down a bit to do that. Chris, how would you do this?
So this is looking through, again, the last couple of months, been talking to a bunch of people, and a pattern here. And Tim, curious to see how we're aligned on this. What else you would add? The folks who are doing this well, my opinion, are ones who are bringing in fresh executive leadership, who are coming from an innovative background. And the executive team of the organization says we need to go change, and we can't do that ourselves. We know we need to change. We don't know how to go do that. So we're going to bring somebody else to the executive team who has the innovation background to do that. So that's one example of a change of doing that. Again, this is all executive led at the end of the day. Another thing that I see are the folks who are number one already in the industry. We're the number one bank. We're the number one this in the industry. They're like, well, what comes after number one? Oh, you either stay at number one or you go down. And they're acknowledging that they need to do something different to continue being number one, because if they don't do, their competition is going to do this differently, and then they're going to go down. So again, by the way, it's another executive-led thing. The third one is where the organizations, and these are large organizations too, we won't talk to, is that they literally have innovation and efficiency kind of part of their DNA. So these are companies who may be massive $1 billion, $100 billion cap companies, right? They're on the stock, the public companies, and they pride themselves to be small. They pride themselves to be efficient. So again, this is an executive. So to answer your question, Joe, is like, I am only seeing people dealing with that if it comes from an executive leadership, quote unquote, mandate that way. If it's coming from a bottoms up and like, oh, the urgent Trump support, then yep, guess what? You're always going to be there. That's it. That's my current answer. And so if you're in a place that like you live there, you're always running through that issue, that's not going to change. Go find a new job if you want to really kind of be innovative. That's my point of view. I don't know, Tim.
I think that's exactly right. And I think the companies that are doing the best job of reframing governance and really leading here are people who don't traditionally come from governance. Like the number of people that we're talking to that came from the data team and moved to governance, or there were data product managers and they moved into governance, or data strategy people and now taking on responsibilities around governance. They're the people who are thinking outside the box around governance. We need more of that.
These are the people who are like, yes, we're going to invest. They're the ones who laugh of like, yeah, it's stupid that we've not been doing data modeling, right? It's stupid that we have not been doing this. Like this is how we're actually going to speed up. So I think that's what we're perceiving right now. And I think I call it here is to challenge your leaders.
So I mean, up until now, and we've been racing ahead to try and get delivery out quick as possible, which may have meant we had some great panel debate or discussions on this. Is you compromise on your design decisions, you compromise on what you should be done, because you have to do things quickly and dirty, and then you never go back and create that stuff, and that just becomes the norm. We just need to get this stuff out the door. And Guy did a great presentation on the world now with Gen AI helping. What sort of size teams you need. Is it going to take all our jobs? We're going to have nothing to do. And, we can use this as an opportunity to, you still need the same number of people, but now you can do things better with better quality. You can do it faster and not need friction again. People are complicated. Having 5 people on a team you've got to talk to, and different time zones like that is tough. But if you're having that, a smaller team that's supported by agents that are performing certain tasks, you can make sure that you're doing things properly. You can make sure you've modeled it in the right way. You know that you can change things if it's gone there because you've got a good SDLC process, or DPLC, if you want to call it, data product life cycle with the new term. But it's whatever your life cycle is of getting it out there. If you know you can change stuff easy later, it doesn't matter because you'll go back. But if you don't ever change anything, you're just going to build a mess.
And to go back to your question, Joe, like one thing that I wish we would do more of, I'm not sure we're doing a good job of it, is I wish that data teams would do less. Like I feel like we're always trying to push the envelope on adding more boxes to the architecture diagram, and we created all these data sets, now let's API-ify all our data sets, and like I always feel like we're trying to push the envelope on stuff. I wish we would just do less and do it better.
Yeah. No argument there. I mean, but you're talking to personally just a big reductionist, the king of no, the abominable no man, I suppose. Name. But,
I like that.
Always trying to find ways to cut.
I think one thing that goes back to history and how we just need to mature as an industry ourselves is like, if we go back at software, like software has processes or how we do this. Why has that been the case? Because software has always been constantly changing. But data historically hasn't, right? It was like, oh, here's grab my data warehouse, bring this in, you have reports, and we're done. Like that was 30 years ago. But now what we need to go do is like there's more data, there's more requests and stuff, but we've never upgraded our ways to go do that. And now is the time to go do this. And I think that's where governance comes in.
Well, especially when data is becoming integrated into software itself.
Yeah, there we go.
There is in my mind the products of the present and the future, and the way data works is there is no distinction between software, data, machine learning. It's all the same stuff.
On platform.
Serving the same product. So
I've got to go. I've got another call.
Oh well,
I was looking at your eyes. I'm like,
thanks for letting me gate crash.
No, thank you for coming in, Joe. It's great to go in, and we weren't short of things to talk about. We could probably do another hour of this. If we had a drink, we could probably do another 4 hours of it. So, Juan, Tim, thank you very much. Always a pleasure chatting, and I love the no honest BS approach. I love my new T-shirt as well. Joe, legend for joining in. Thank you very much. I will return the favour some stage, and well, in fact, I'm in credit, or that you're in credit. You can gate crash quite a few times because I've done it enough in the past.
All right, see you all.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you, Joe.
All right, see you guys. I'm gonna end.